Fitness assessments are a really popular topic, and especially with the new year starting, so many people want to know where they're at from a fitness perspective, but they actually have you focused on the wrong things. On this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, we're going to explain why that is and what you need to be focusing on instead. We're going to cue our introduction and we're going to dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset. And the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise is geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are exploring this idea of fitness assessments. There are so many types of fitness assessments, and especially when people are first starting off on their fitness journeys, which many people are at the turn of the year, they want to have some kind of assessment to figure out where they're at. But focusing on the fitness assessments, or rather engaging in the fitness assessment, can actually get you focused on the wrong things with your workouts long term. We want to explain why that is and the issues that this can lead to when you are thinking about your long-term health, long-term strength, long-term function. But before we get into that, we have a favor to ask of you.
That's right. Little do people know, the best way to support a podcast like this, where we're giving you free content all the time, is to leave us a rating and review. A rating and review on your podcasting platform of choice lets that platform know that we are giving you value and helping you change how you exercise. So if you wouldn't mind giving us a pause right now, scrolling to the bottom and leaving us that rating review, we would greatly appreciate it. Also, I do want to highlight, starting in like 4 days, on Sunday, we have our next One Workout Away challenge coming up, and we want you to join in. This is a great time to get exposed to our content and to get some one-on-one attention from us. The way the OWA works is you sign up, and then it's 28 days straight of exercise guidance and in a private Facebook group, all guided by us. We're going to be calling this one Moving and Mobile. So we're going to be combining cardio live workouts. We're also going to be giving you a lot of reverse stretching. So if you're wanting to work on your flexibility, but stretching's not working, this is totally for you. And if you listened to our podcast a few weeks ago, we really touched on this stuff. So we want you to join in. The group will start Sunday, January 7th. And the last day to sign up is going to be on Saturday at 11:59 p.m. We always get some emails on Sunday. So please sign up now or before Saturday so that you don't miss out, because we don't allow anyone to join in late. But to get signed up for this, all you need to do is go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com/OWA.
So, Julie, I have a question for you.
Okay.
How many times have you personally done a fitness assessment on yourself of some kind?
I think I've done a lot, actually. I can't count, but I know I've done a lot.
Yeah, no, I know that I've done a lot too. I mean, starting in elementary school with, the presidential fitness tests, and, that essentially then perpetuates everything going forward as far as like, okay, well, I ran, a timed mile, when I was 8 years old, and now I'm going to run a timed mile when I'm 18 years old, and now I'm going to run a timed mile when I'm 28 years old, and, just want to make sure that I'm making progress because, I have these objective measures, and because I'm able to measure it, now all of a sudden I'm able to see that I'm progressing and I'm going in the right direction and everything like that. But here's the thing. Fitness assessments of most natures, they actually get you focused on the wrong things when you work out, because it can become something where you're actually just trying to almost like beat the test, so to speak, as opposed to getting really good at the study. So to use a school analogy, it's like, well, are you studying for the exam, or are you kind of going through the process of learning how to learn? Okay, so are you doing your workouts to try to beat your last score on the fitness assessment, or are you going through your workouts to actually lead a stronger, healthier, more functional life? Those two do not always go hand in hand, where just because you do better on a fitness exam does not mean you necessarily, or a fitness assessment does not necessarily mean you are noticing differences in your life. But more than that, trying to just do better on the fitness assessment, it can actually set you up for a number of issues within your daily life.
That's right. When you're saying this reminds me of a lot of what happened to me in school. And I'm just going to use this as an analogy. And so something I really struggled with in school was reading. And reading is clearly a very integral part of school. And you even get tests on it. Like you get tested to see if you can read and understand some stuff, and then you take a test. And I really struggled with reading to the point where I'm pretty sure I never read any book that I was ever told to read, but I aced all the tests. I mean, I literally graduated high school with like almost a 5.0 GPA. I don't know how that happens, but because here's the thing, I never thought I was bad at reading because the teacher never said, I really want you to read and get better at reading. They said, we want you to read this and take this exam. So the goal is to ace the exam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two different things. So here's the thing. I got really good. I mean, it's taught me a lot of other skills, how to get around reading. But to this day, I don't learn by reading because I just don't enjoy it. It's not easy for me to consume information this way. So here's the thing. With fitness tests, a lot of times we get really consumed by, again, what Charlie said, mastering the test. We get hyper-focused. What did they say? How many times can I do this? Okay, let's go. Start the timer. Let's go, go, go. Instead, with fitness, your body doesn't care how many sit-ups you did to touch your knees. Your body is going to change because you're progressing it appropriately. And that's really where we're going to get to and how we're going to change the focus to that. But that's the risk of getting into a lot of the fitness assessments. They can be fun. They can be like fun to compete with yourself or with your friends or whatever. But when we get too hyper-focused on them, sometimes it can take us away from the main goal. And by the way, a lot of people, you, me, Charlie, we can't even do the baseline of the assessment because our bodies don't work that way. Like, one that isn't circulating, for example, right now, is like, don't use your hands and just sit on the floor and then stand back up.
Oh my
Never
gosh.
use your hands. So
That is the dumbest assessment.
my body dimensions work really good for that. And Charlie's do not.
No.
Charlie is built like a basketball player. I'm pretty sure some of his top level athletes that he works with that are also basketball players could never do that because it's not about your fitness. It's about your body dimensions in that one, right? And so sometimes these fitness assessments that tell you how good at balance you are, tell you how young you are, no matter what your age, how young you are, how fit you are, how much, flexibility you have, they're really not telling you much. And they're really can be misleading. So we're going to dive into, I think it'd be fun to kind of talk about some of these funny ones because we know a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
And we've done a lot of them just for fun, just to experience them. So let's talk about some ridiculous ones. You might have heard of some of these. But again, we want to bring you back to what we really want you to focus on. But, this will be fun.
So, I mean, again, going back, most of us have experience doing some kind of fitness assessment, given, elementary school and the presidential fitness exam. You're doing the sit and reach, you're doing the sit-ups, you're doing the pull-ups, you're doing the mile run. And that might be it. I don't remember if there's another one on top of that.
Oh, we did the bar hang.
The bar, okay,
the
it's
girls
bar
did
hang
the ball hang.
if you can do the pull-ups.
Yes,
yeah.
and you did the pull-ups.
Right, exactly.
Or men did the pull, or boys did the pull-ups.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. One thing in school, so starting around the age of, mid-teen, so probably 14 or 15, I got really severe plantar fasciitis, which, by the way, I tell my story in another podcast all about that. But I remember, it was the most grueling thing to have to do the 1 mile running test. I failed every time. They're like, Julie, you need to run. I was like, I can't. I'm actually probably way more in shape than all these people here or all my classmates and stuff because I swam 2 hours every day, but I couldn't run. And so it was a really poor test of my cardiovascular fitness because I had a physical ailment that made it so I couldn't run or, I chose to not run, chose to not blow out my plantar fascia, and it was probably a good idea. So that's an example of a limitation. If you are trying to do a fitness test, and you literally have a physical limitation that stops you from doing it, then it's not a very good test of your cardiovascular fitness.
No, absolutely. And another one that is right in line with that is the VO2 max test.
Oh my gosh.
The VO2 max test is super popular
Have you
these
done
days.
it?
I've never done it, but in grad school, we had to put one person through our class through it. I actually volunteered, but another person volunteered moments before I did. And so he got to do it instead of me. Anyways, if you've never seen a VO2 max test conducted, it's grueling.
Yeah.
It's literally the entire goal of it is to push you to physical cardiovascular exhaustion.
Yeah.
It's absolutely hard as you can go. And most people are like, oh yeah, I just want to see what my VO2 max is. No, you don't just like see what your VO2 max is. Like you actually have to like get ready to do this thing because it is an extreme exertion on your point. But here's the kicker. It actually doesn't matter. Right. And I know there are a lot of like popular doctors with like popular podcasts and popular social media platforms that make a big deal of like what your VO2 max is. Your VO2 max actually doesn't matter, okay? And this is kind of the point that we're making for this whole thing. It does not matter what your VO2 max is. Testing your VO2 max would be a complete waste of your time, complete waste of your energy, and complete waste of your focus. Because what actually matters is that you're doing the steps necessary to try to change your VO2 max.
Right.
That's what matters.
Yes, and to your point, Charlie, I was the volunteer in my school.
Oh, nice. Okay,
yeah,
nice.
I had two.
All right, so you can speak from experience.
I did it.
Yeah,
yes.
I can speak from third party. Yeah.
And so just so you know, this test and some others are so risky to you that, okay, so just to give you a picture, you're running as fast as you possibly can. You build up to it. So by the time you're running as fast as you can, you're now at like minute 13 or something. So you're like dying. And we had the biggest, there was a male cheerleader in my class and I was like, he stands there with his hands under your armpits. So when you fall, because that's the end, when you fall.
That is how hard you're pushing. You are going to literally collapse on the treadmill.
Yes, you're going to collapse on the treadmill. That's how hard you're pushing yourself. So think of all the orthopedic risks that come before that, or all the signals your body's telling you to stop, and you're just deciding to turn them off. So anyways, and then at the end, you get this number, which I did nothing with. And, it didn't help me exercise better. Right. Like I went back to the gym and did my normal thing.
You didn't make different exercise decisions.
Nope. And then at the end, they gave me and the other person that volunteered, we got a brownie, which I love brownies. I could not eat it. I was so sick. I could not eat it. And for like 3 days, I was so sore. So actually, it would have been better for my health to just not do the test and continue with my normal exercise. But my legs were so sore, my feet were sore, and my core was so sore. And after, I really wanted to throw up for so long that I couldn't even eat my brownie. I couldn't even eat.
And the other thing is the only value there would be in that test is if you were willing to go back and do it at a later date.
Right.
Again, like you have to be willing to put yourself through that again to be like, okay, did it change? Fingers crossed it did, because otherwise I went through this test twice for nothing.
I know. And so literally at that point in my life, I did it for ego, right? Because it was fun and I was young and I could handle a lot of stuff. And so that was that. But thinking about someone that's exercising for, productive health changes, that would tell you no information. It doesn't matter how hard you can push or how long you can go until you collapse on a treadmill. But here's some other ones that you might have seen that maybe you don't even think risk your health as much or whatever. But have you ever heard of like the standing on one foot test? We say, hey, your balance, you can tell how good you are at balancing when you stand on one foot and see how long you can do it. Or another one is how many times can you sit down in a chair and stand up in 1 minute without using your hands? Or how fast how fast can you walk or jog a 1 mile distance? That's one way. So there are some that, they're not as extreme as falling over on a treadmill, but they still don't give us information that helps us make decisions when it comes to exercise. And that's the big point with these fitness assessments.
Absolutely. They tend to be far too general to be useful. And again, then you have to go back and actually go back and do them again in order for them to have any kind of like inherent value. So if you're going to do, some kind of strength test or whatever, you have to be willing to go back and do that again. And then on top of that, you then have to be able to say, okay, well, am I going to train to be able to beat this test, or am I going to train or exercise, or say, to be able to like improve my health, improve my strength, improve my function? And so the point of this is that if you are exercising consistently, if you are doing the things that you should be doing on a consistent basis, as far as doing your strength training multiple times throughout the week, getting regular aerobic exercise in, cardiovascular exercise in multiple times throughout the week, utilizing the 4 exercise for life principles. So you are using your symptom-free full range of motion, helping to increase the mobility of your joints, the flexibility of your muscles through your strength training, and you're doing so in a way that is respectful to your body because you're body matching, you're able to keep coming back to it day after day, well, then it's just a matter of time of continuing to do that before you will be able to say, okay, yeah, like objectively, I will be able to do better on these tests. But it doesn't really matter that you're able to do better on those tests. What matters is that you are taking the actions to do better on the tests. And a lot of people feel like they need some kind of like objective carrot to be like, okay, yeah, like I know that I'm making progress. But what ends up happening is it takes exercise from what should be very internal focused on improving the health and function of your body, and instead puts a focus outside of your body. How much weight is being lifted? How many reps can I do? How fast can I travel a mile? How far can I reach past my toes? How long can I stand on one leg or one foot? And the challenge with that is as soon as exercise goes from being an internal thing to being an external thing, it becomes very easy to start sacrificing your health, to start sacrificing your function in lieu of trying to change or achieve the external goals and the external markers. And so our whole message is to try to help you really focus in on making exercise an internal thing so you can keep coming back to it. And one of the ways that we see people get tripped up with this a lot is by getting too caught up in these fitness assessments.
Yeah, one that we see a lot, it's not like technically a fitness assessment, but it's very similar and it's definitely an external goal, is like if you are into, like, a lot of people, when they start getting into fitness, they're like, well, I'm going to run a 5K. Just because like there's so many 5K runs around, and you can sign up and it's like a designated date, it like kind of keeps you accountable. And then when they do it a couple times, like signs of success is like when you're running it faster. And that is a sign of success. But we always want to double check you where we're saying, hey, because this thing is so external, right? Running a 5K faster is a very external goal, which you are allowed to achieve external goals. They are amazing. We want you achieving them, but not in sacrifice of your internal status. Mm-hmm. So if you're running a 5K faster because you're able to limp through your plantar fasciitis better, that's not so hot, because that is sacrificing the health of some other area of your body, i.e. your foot mechanics and your knee mechanics and your hip, which can lead to a lot of not great things, right? And so it matters. We do want to see you, again, achieving external goals, but not just for the external goal. We want to keep everything else in check also. So here are some ways to know that you are progressing without having to do these tests.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So you guys have listened to us for a while, and you know the Exercise for Life principles, so you know how to stay really safe and mindful when you're exercising. So some really great ways to know you're progressing is when you can add weight, you're not sore, you're still respectful of your range of motion, you're still thinking internally, thinking about squeezing your muscles, and motion is staying pain-free. That means you have literally gotten stronger, and it's not like you're just lifting more and learning how to turn off your brain to not listen to your body more. Mm-hmm. Or one Charlie did just this past weekend is he had went for I think it was like a walk jog, and his body was just depleted. He came back, he was like, oh, my body was just not ready for exercise. So instead of doing my jog that I thought I was going to do, I walked, right? So he modified relative to how he was feeling internally. And the next day he went for I think maybe 2 days later, he went for a jog. Mm-hmm. And the feedback was that I felt really powerful. It wasn't that his time changed, which it probably did. It wasn't that he went faster, even though he probably did. He said, I felt way more powerful and I felt energized and ready, right? Mm-hmm. That is a sign that his body improved, right? So these are the signs that we look for with your exercise. Or here's another great example. A lot of people exercise so that they can live more fully in their life. For example, like let's say you have grandkids and you're like, I can't get up and off the ground. So you might have an external goal of like, I'd like to get up and off the ground. Easier, right? And so you might notice that over time, like, hey, I get stronger. I've been exercising, being mindful of everything, and now getting up and out of chairs is easier. Now getting up the stairs is easier. But we don't have to track that, right? Because as soon as we start tracking it too tightly, then a lot of times, again, we get distracted in, my hip's hurting me, so I shouldn't be getting up and off the ground today, but today's assessment day, so we better do it and turn off my brain and just, disregard. So Again, we want to see external goals changing, but we want to make sure that we're not doing it in disregard to your internal status, because that in the big picture is what exercise is all about. Exercise is about changing the inside of your body. And if you achieve really great things, which you will if you're respecting the inside, then that is amazing. But we don't want to, again, ever sacrifice your internal status for external goals.
Exactly. So actually in our book, The Exercise for Life Method, we laid out 5 different ways that you can start measuring your progress of what's happening within your body. And it doesn't require any lab work. It doesn't require you to pass out from exhaustion while you're running on the treadmill. But each of these, by checking these things off with your workouts, you will know that they are markers of like, all right, you're going in the right directions with your workouts. So the first is to check in with how your body is doing during and after your workout. All right, do you feel energized? Do you feel more connected to your body? Do you feel like you're more mobile? Do you feel stronger? Or do you feel like your body's starting to tighten up? You're starting to feel achy, sore. You're feeling like your body's depleted and breaking down, okay? So check in with how your body's doing during and after your workout, okay? Number 2, how are you feeling in the hours and days that follow your workout? So during your workout and immediately after check in, and then think about the hours and days. Again, do you feel like the rest of your day, like you just need to take a nap, you're feeling lethargic, or do you feel like locked in? Like, okay, that was such, a powerful thing that I did for my body earlier in the morning, and now the rest of my day, like I am just on fire, okay? How are you feeling the next day when you wake up? Do you feel like you got hit by a truck? Or are you like bouncing out of bed like, okay, I am ready to go because of my workout yesterday, okay? That's number 2. Number 3, how connected do you feel to your muscles while you're working out, okay? Are you able to make strong mind-muscle connections to the different areas of your body that you're challenging, especially when you're lifting weights, but also while you're doing cardio? Can you feel the different groups of muscles working? Are you able to be aware of that? Or does it just feel like kind of general systemic fatigue, okay? The more connected and the more direct connection you can feel and more awareness you have, that is a sign that, okay, you are progressing in the right direction with your workouts internally. Number 4, how well do you feel your joints are moving while you're exercising, okay? While you're doing your workouts, are you aware of like how well your knees are bending, how well, your spine is moving, how well your shoulders are moving? Or are you generally unaware of kind of how your body is moving? You're just trying to do your best to do some kind of choreography and not really kind of sure of like, exactly how you're doing it, okay? So having a stronger awareness of how your body's moving is a sign that you're going in the right direction. And then number 5, how well can you tell where your body is in space while you're exercising, especially when you're doing resistance training, okay? So for example, like more or less like, are you able to maintain to maintain your moving and non-moving parts exactly how you want to the entire time you're doing your resistance training? Or do you find that you're able only to monitor that for a little bit and then you kind of check out and your form kind of goes downhill after a little bit? The stronger you're able to keep that focus while you're doing resistance training or while you're doing any kind of exercise, the more your exercise is progressing your internal function in the right direction. And then if you can lock in those 5 things, again, how well do you feel during and immediately after your workout? How do you feel in the hours and days that follow your workouts? How connected do you feel to your muscles during your workouts? How well do you feel your joints moving, which is your moving segments? And how well do you feel you're able to control the parts of your body that aren't moving, your non-moving segments? The more you're able to progress those things, the more you're able to like really focus in and differentiate those things. It's just a matter of time before you're getting the results that you want from your workouts. And then you don't need to worry about doing those, those ridiculous fitness assessments or going back and having to redo the fitness assessments to be like, okay, yeah, I'm making progress. Because at the end of the day, the fitness assessments don't matter. What matters is that you are continuing to progress the internal aspects of your body in the right directions from a health, strength, and function standpoint. And those 5 things will help you do just that.
That's right. I love those 5 points, Charlie, because I think sometimes the fitness industry teaches us how to track external measures. Is my weight going up? Am I moving faster? Am I doing more squats? All the things that we track. But instead, learning how to monitor our internal status. And when we do that, we will surely see changes in our external performance. But it will be on our body's terms without sacrificing the health and well-being of our body, because that really is what happens so much in the fitness industry, and that's why we see so many people stop exercising. It's because in the pursuit of changing external measures, they have some internal injuries that keeps them away. And the one thing that we want you doing is exercising for forever. And so you can't get injured. You can't have things that are preventable keeping you away. So use these tips to change your perspective on exercise, and use those fitness tests sparingly, and make sure you have a good head on your shoulders when you are using them, just so that you know the time and place to use them, and you're not overusing them, not overdoing them, and making sure that the thing you're really focusing on is progressing your body and not progressing the tests.
Exactly. Now, within the Exercise for Life membership, we help you do exactly that. We teach you the principles that you need to know and implement within each of your workouts to make sure your workouts leave you feeling healthier, more mobile, stronger, and energized versus achy, sore, beat up, and injured. So if you want to get started, we're actually giving a 30-day trial away for free right now. For a limited time, you can get 30 days for free with the Exercise for Life membership. All you have to do to get started is go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com. So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that is really focused on getting in these fitness assessments right now, that is gung-ho on trying to test their VO2 max? Share this episode with them so they can understand maybe why they don't want to go about doing just that, what to do instead of focusing on the traditional fitness assessments. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.